Welcome, everyone, to the Chris Parrish Podcast, episode 125, Full Transparency. And full transparency, we're having some issues on Facebook. It's always Facebook. Don't know why, but it's always Facebook. So, yeah, we'll try to get that worked out. But thank you for everyone who's joining. We're live on so many platforms right now. Every Chris Parrish platform there is, as well as all of the Turnbuckle Studios ones. So thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. And thank you to CBRS Entertainment on the YouTube side. If you are on any platform and you have the opportunity to like, follow, subscribe to any of those platforms, or if you want to just get them all done, please do so. That helps the channel along a lot. So I would definitely appreciate it. But also definitely appreciate Turnbuckle Studios and Turnbuckle Affiliation program, as they are the partners of the Chris Parrish Podcast, and the proud sponsor of this podcast is Beercade YEG, located at 10544 82nd Ave in Edmonton, Alberta, your home for live free viewings of AEW pay-per-views and WWE PLEs. They were the home of WrestleMania night 1 and 2, and I was there for night 2 last week and had a lot of fun. And yeah, it's crazy to think we're already a week past WrestleMania. It's in the rear view. We are looking forward. So much has happened. So let's get to it. Let's have some fun. And I want to talk about, again, full transparency. What does that mean? Well, we now know what the landscape of WWE is moving forward. And what that could be, what's that going to shape out? We are not sure. But what we do know is that everything is changing and it's still ongoing. So let's do a little bit of recapping of what we know. And that is, in this week, we saw a bunch of releases. We'll touch on that. A bunch of call-ups. We'll touch on that. But I'm also going to talk about the champions, and I'm going to throw back and have some fun and predict who I think are going to be the next champions after this current crop. That's right. I'm going to try to predict who takes the title of every main roster champion. That's right. Main roster. So Raw, SmackDown. That's it. I'm not going to go with NXT. That could be for a different show. But speaking of NXT, I might just talk about what is next for NXT with all these call-ups. But let's go through the big topic of this week, releases. We got a lot of releases, a lot of surprising releases from WWE. And first off, I just want to point out, this is a time now where we got to step up as fans, as just supporters of these talents, and be there while they're dealing with what's next for their life, what's next for their career. We know this sucks. We know that this is a circumstance that is beyond their control at times. Sometimes it is part of their control. But this, when it comes to budget releases, things like that, not their control. But let's support these talents through this time. Let's not go on social media and say, what is this company doing wrong? Let's support the talents and hope that they get back on track, whether it's finding a new place to perform, whether it's finding happiness in their life. Let's just worry about giving them a positive spin on a situation that, let's be honest, isn't positive. But the releases that we came in, very surprising. All members of the Wyatt Six, whether it's Bo Dallas, Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, Nikki Cross, and Dexter Lumis, they all got released. We were wondering just a couple weeks ago why that group took a pretty it was a pretty clear loss in the MFTs. They lost that feud, and usually that's typically not what we see in WWE. So something had to give. Did we expect that they were all going to get released? No. But it was really surprising. And what I thought really was surprising is this pattern now we're seeing with WWE, and the supernatural character doesn't have much of a shelf life in the company. It's very weird to me because I feel like you can go so much with this. As Bobby Pedito coming in from YouTube saying, good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon to you as well. And thank you for coming in. But these supernatural characters just don't seem to have longevity in WWE. I mean, I look back all the way to just a couple of years ago with Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Actually, that was just last year. And then we're looking at now the Wyatt Six, but also Aleister Black and Zelina Vega, also part of the release list. And it seems like if you want to do anything in terms of that conspiracy or that really supernatural type stuff, there doesn't seem to be much creative for you. Obviously, when it comes to those kind of stories and those kinds of characters, there's a lot of in-depth detail that goes along with it, and sometimes creative struggles with that because their creative doesn't match with the creative of the performer. We saw a lot of that with Bray Wyatt and how he had his character very mapped out in so many details, and sometimes that just presented frustrations with the creative because it doesn't always translate with your employer or even with the product. So it just is curious to me why it just seems so often that these types of characters don't work. You would think after a certain amount of time, maybe we start hiring some people that can figure this stuff out and work with the talent. I'm sure there's a lot of people there. And maybe you need somebody, a part of your creative process that understands this type of stuff and knows how to apply it. I mean, after all, The Undertaker's considered and widely respected as one of the greatest superstars of all time. So why can't that guy translate to some of these talents? Or even if WWE can highly use Undertaker in the way that he did, why not some of these supernaturals? Because it's not every day an Undertaker is roaming the ring, right? It's a little far-fetched. But nonetheless, all of the Wyatt Six, Aleister Black, Zelina Vega released. Kairi Sane is departed from WWE. And the reason why I say departed, not released, there are speculations and rumors that this could be a contract issue. I don't have the exact information, so I'm going to plead the fifth and say departed because we still don't know, or at least I don't know, if she was released or her contract is up. All I know that there is a huge supporting of Kairi Sane, and we want Kairi trending on social media. The fans clearly are not happy with this particular move. So if it is a contract-related thing, we did see it before with her counterpart, Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky, and that was resolved. And she was back with the company as we saw the formation of Damage Control at SummerSlam a few years back. So I'm very intrigued with what can become of this. So yeah, maybe, just maybe, the treatment that the fans are giving the situation, it reminds me a lot of the R-Truth backlash. And because of that, I have a feeling we'll see Kairi Sane back with the company. I just feel that's the trajectory of where this is going. We also saw Zoe Stark released. I think this one hurts because she was just medically cleared to come back. Also, we're going to miss the banger of the theme song. Let's be honest. That theme song just really was awesome. And then we had both members of the Machine Guns in Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Alba Fire, who I still don't think was really in a position to be herself much, and I thought she was doing a fantastic job with Chelsea Green. We saw Andre Chase, Paulo Cruz, Santos Escobar, Dante Chen, Malik Blade, Luca Cristofino, Tyreek Ingwe, Tyson DuPont, and Tyree May Steele. Bobby coming in saying, and Io Sky never got released. Her contract was up and it got renegotiated. That's why I'm using the word departed, not released, because Io Sky was never released from the company. Her contract ran out. And what we've known with WWE as of late, the contract negotiations have been very poorly managed in terms of time. Sometimes contracted superstars aren't even aware that their contract's coming up, and sometimes even management aren't even aware a contract is coming up. I think that needs to be cleaned up. We've been hearing a lot of stories with a lot of superstars in the last few years talking about this kind of stuff. Karrion Kross, for the most part, has been very vocal about the frustrations of the process of re-signing a new contract. Bobby coming in saying, I was thinking maybe Dante Chen goes to TNA and go after Mustafa Ali's international championship. And I think that's something we're going to have to talk about. And I might even go next week of talking about where I think these talents can go. And it's only because I get a little bit more information about what's going on first, about a lot of this stuff before I really comment. All I know is there is a mass release or departing talent from the company on Friday, and it sucks. And I think we all can agree that it's better to support these talents and be in their corner. And whatever choice they make next, we honor it. We support them. We don't criticize. We don't say, why are you doing this? You should have done that. Their life, their career, their decision making. And the one thing we don't know is we don't know if these talents are upset with their employer or not. They might be upset with the decision and the situation, but maybe not the employer. So let's backtrack on the, this company can go to hell, all these kind of type of comments. That's not the right approach. Let's wait and see kind of where these talents go next, because who knows? Some of these talents may even wind back up in WWE down the road. This just could be one of those things that are temporary and not permanently. Chris Best coming in saying, I got a feeling we'll maybe see Alba Fire and Isla Dawn reunite. Very well could happen. That unholy union that they had, that tag team, very well could be back together. I wouldn't even be surprised if Alba Fire or Kaylee Ray, as her social media has gone back to, could just pursue more individual opportunities. After all, she was an NXT UK women's champion and did a very good job with that championship. Who's to say she just might not be more focused on doing her opposed to tag team or a situation, because she was always put into a group or a tag team in some way. So it's very, very hard to say what they want. I mean, obviously, as fans, we can armchair quarterback every little detail because that's what we do. And let's face it, it's what we're good at. Bobby, thank you so much for those kind words. I definitely appreciate it. All I know is with these cuts, they provide opportunity. And the opportunities that we know that are there, we have in the call-ups. We have in the people coming up from whether it's NXT or even signings, because we got the word that Evil from New Japan Pro Wrestling has been officially signed by the WWE. And that is a big domino that falls, because yes, it's simple to say, oh, why are they signing guys and then cutting? I think clearly decisions needed to be made. There was definitely other reasons to why we have these releases, but again, they open a door for people like Evil to come in. Whether he goes to NXT or he goes to a Raw or SmackDown, that is unknown. I think a lot of people want him to go to a SmackDown or Raw, but and this has been documented, whether it's through interviews or podcasts or even written articles, that AJ Styles has told Triple H he strongly believes everyone who starts in WWE needs to go through NXT at some point, because whether it's a styles change, pun intended, or whether it's just an understanding of the company standpoint, it is very important for new talent to always understand what they're getting into when joining WWE. And I can't really fault or even argue that logic, because AJ Styles could possibly be the one person you can go to and say he had a different style in TNA than he did in WWE. So for him to say that, he's talking from his personal experience, but also based on what he has seen from other talent joining the company who may have struggled to find their footing or even had a hard time adjusting. So I think it's very obvious that AJ Styles has a clear understanding of what needs to happen, because it's not the same pro wrestling from a New Japan, a TNA, or even AEW, or the independent circuits, or any other company. When you go to WWE, there are some all there are some just aspects of your game that you do have to switch up or adapt to when you're in WWE. So because of that, not only do I see Evil going to NXT most likely, even if it's a short period of time, like Stephanie Vakira and even Julia did, but it very well could also represent a name change, because it's very unlikely that WWE could own and trademark the name Evil or the word Evil. So do expect a name change there, and it's simply just not applicable for a major corporation to license the word Evil. I just don't think they're capable of doing that. I don't think it'll happen. So definitely expect a name change with that superstar coming in. I also do want to talk about the call-ups, because we did have plenty of call-ups and we still might even get more. But what we do know so far is that there have been multiple call-ups for both Raw and SmackDown, and those are on Raw. We saw Ethan Page make his Raw debut, as he not only said he wanted to become Intercontinental Champion, but he reignited an NXT feud with Javon Evans, which set up a match for him on Raw, where he defeated Javon Evans. So it is very clear that not only is Ethan Page on Raw, but with the win over one of the more impressive and jaw-dropping athletes on the Raw roster, somebody who a lot of people had pegged to be the new Intercontinental Champion coming out of WrestleMania, he had a very decisive win over him on Raw. So Ethan Page, I think, is primed to have a very important role right away on Raw, as well as a counterpart in Sol Ruca, who interrupted Liv Morgan's title celebration, and that prompted to a match on Raw, which was an absolute amazing match. And if it wasn't for Zarya, her longtime rival and best friend and former best friend, who interfered to set up, obviously, their last women's standing match on NXT on Tuesday, which, by the way, go check that out, because those girls tore the house down. We even saw Sol Ruca have an impressive performance. Zarya cost her the match, but nonetheless, she hung with your new women's world champion, and you just cannot put limitations on this performer, because Sol Ruca didn't look like the new kid in town. She looked like she's been there, and I think that is a very impressive thing to have on your first night on the main roster. And then what we got was a very surprising one, because this coming Monday, tomorrow, we're going to get, for the first time on Monday Night Raw, a live concert by Joe Hendry. I said his name. If you're not on this show soon, I'm holding you to your word, because I'm trying. I'm trying to, go with the shtick. But yeah, Joe Hendry, who everyone assumed was going to go to SmackDown, myself included. We saw him not only on the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal right before WrestleMania, And I know that's a little bit of an outlier because it was with multiple divisions, Raw, SmackDown, AAA, NXT. They were all represented in there. That's fair. But we also saw on SmackDown doing a live concert, had some stuff with The Miz right before the new year started. So it looked like it was a foreshadow to Joe Hendry on SmackDown, but clearly things changed, situations occurred, and now we have Joe Hendry on Raw. Then on SmackDown, we saw Fatal Influence as a whole, JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Laney Reed as a collective show up on SmackDown as they interrupted the tag team matchup of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair with Brie Bella and Paige. And because of that, they made a staple. And as soon as we thought that this was only going to be about the tag titles, later in the night, Rhea Ripley was out in the ring talking about becoming the new champion in WWE, but also now a new permanent member of SmackDown. And then who shows up? That's right, Fatal Influence, and it sets up a match between JC Jane and Rhea Ripley. And much like Raw, we saw an amazing match, and we saw a match that didn't get finished because Fatal Influence once again got in the way, and they made a huge statement on Rhea Ripley. But what we need to talk about is the crazy heat for Fatal Influence in that promo before that match. And it was absolutely crazy because even for all members of Fatal Influence, it was hard just to get a word out. It was pretty electric in the building. And if that continues, I think WWE struck gold with Fatal Influence on SmackDown. And just like bringing in a white hot Rhea Ripley, who is so popular with the audience, you need that number one villain. And I think JC Jane is right there. And if she can get that reaction from the audience and get hated that much and have it done consistently, we don't know what JC Jane and Fatal Influence can really not do at this point, because night one, that's what we see. Quite the impressive debut for Fatal Influence. And then if that wasn't it, coming soon is Blake Monroe. We saw a vignette saying coming soon. And what's curious is we don't even know if that's just SmackDown or if we're going to see this on Raw, because we do know that it's capable of WWE playing these vignettes on both shows. They have been playing the whole which show they're going to go to. They did it with Oba. They did it with Jade. They've done it in the past. So will they do it with Blake Monroe? I think we'll be able to tell if we see the same vignette tomorrow on Raw. And if we don't, we know that's SmackDown. As of right now, we have to say she's SmackDown, just based on the fact that we saw it on SmackDown. But what we do know, and who we do know is on SmackDown, Ricky Saints is going to be live this coming Friday on SmackDown. He has been called up as well. So in total, we have five people on SmackDown, and so far 3 on Raw. And I think that is going to be absolutely amazing to see. It's kind of weird too, because I've been looking at this and I'm like, oh, SmackDown just has such an abundance more people. And then you realize, yeah, it's a 3-hour show compared to Raw's 2.5. So it's crazy to think just years ago, Raw was a 3-hour, SmackDown was 2. They were getting 3 picks to their SmackDown's 2 on the draft. And I wonder if now it has been flipped. But yeah, quite crazy to think. But that in a nutshell right now was your week. And for the most part, this was all on Friday, with the exception of the Raw call-ups. So pretty wild couple days. And we haven't even talked about Jacob Fatu challenging Roman Reigns for Backlash. But we'll get to that after we play a few ads. We're going to showcase to you what you can find on turnbucklestudios.org. So if you want to hit the shop function on there, you can check out everything that we have on our amazing mobile shop. And then also, if you want to hit that join function, you'll be able to see if you're able and you're wanting to join the Turnbuckle affiliation program, become a member of our family, and tap in. So here are those couple videos right now, and we'll talk a little Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns afterwards.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, video games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
That's right, everyone. Turnbucklestudios.org is the official website to the Turnbuckle Studios and Turnbuckle affiliation program. There's plenty of options. So after that .org, you can go /shop, and that takes you to our mobile shop. If you want to hit /join, that gives you an opportunity to go through the resume and see if you want to become a member of the Turnbuckle affiliation program. And that doesn't mean on screen. We're also in need of editing help, graphic help, all that stuff, promotional help, all that stuff is included. So if this is something that's up your alley and you would like to get into either content creation or even possible just further your skills and want to work with us, this is an opportunity that you can do. Talking about sharpening your skills, nothing is more sharpening than challenging Roman Reigns after he won a World Heavyweight Championship. But on Monday night, we saw just that, as Jacob Fatu is now the next in line for a opportunity of that championship. He interrupts your tribal chief, and then all of a sudden, things seem to have changed on Raw. We don't know if Jacob Fatu has moved to Raw or what is happening, because we also saw him on SmackDown as well. But what we do know is that he challenged Roman Reigns to a match for the championship at Backlash. And Roman Reigns flat out didn't say no, but he said, I want you to take time to think about it. And then next week, I want you to say whether or not you really want to challenge me or not. And then he told Jimmy and Jey Uso, who accompanied him to the ring, by the way, to talk some sense into Jacob on SmackDown. And on SmackDown, we saw a little bit of that. And then what we didn't see, and I think this is very impressive or very interesting, but later it now seems like we get an answer on Monday of whether or not Roman will do it, will have this match or not. Because the theme on SmackDown was more Jacob wasn't backing down, because as much as the Usos tried to talk some sense into him, they also tried to bring him in and say, look, you can do more with us than you can against us. So be a part of us. You're a part of our family. So be part of our bloodline. And then we saw the MFTs minus Talatanga come out. Solo tried to do pretty much the same thing. And then that led to a match between Solo and Jacob. And Jacob had a pretty good statement, as he not only defeated Solo, but he took out the MFTs with the steel chair, but by himself, because he told the Usos not to get involved. But the Usos watched this. And you have to look at this multiple ways, because Jacob Fatu just proved that he is that lone wolf. He is that dangerous. But also in the eyes of the Usos, now they see a fear of, hey, if this guy can do all this by himself, he might be a very huge test for Roman Reigns. In fact, Roman, we might have some bad bad stuff to say, because you might want to start taking Fatu a little bit more seriously. Bobby, thank you so much for that. I know you're saying that you're looking forward to seeing Penta and Ethan. We'll get to a little bit of that later, because I think you'll like what I have to say. And thank you for letting everybody know to check me out. I put on my face today. Oh, but sorry, you probably mean the show. Yeah, that would be nice too. So I just really am curious with what this is going to be like on Monday. Do they get physical? Where does this escalate to? Because as much as I loved the bloodline stuff, I almost don't want to see this again. I'm really wanting to see something different. But with the amount of Samoans and the fact that they're all related in some way, shape, or form, you kind of can't escape it. So the fact that we now have somebody in the family who's willing to go rogue and not do it disrespectably, but just do it for his own reasons, I think that's very intriguing. And with Jacob Fatu, he has this different aura on him than a Jimmy or Jey Uso or a Solo Sikoa or a Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Talo. Like, he separates himself from everyone else for all the right reasons. We saw his match with Drew McIntyre. That was a pretty dominant performance. Solo was a pretty dominant performance. The statement after was pretty dominant. Clearly, there is a lot of stock in Jacob Fatu. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a huge elevation for Jacob Fatu in 2026 after WrestleMania season. But I'm also curious to see what show that's going to be on, because he appeared on not only Raw and SmackDown. In fact, he was the last thing you saw on both shows. And that doesn't happen very often. Not anymore. So I do think Jacob Fatu and a major championship is something to look at as we dive throughout the rest of 2026. Because I would not be surprised if Jacob Fatu gets a championship, whether it's the Universe or the Undisputed or the World Heavyweight. But I'm also going to be curious by this time next week if Jacob Fatu, if he's Raw or SmackDown. Because we have been hearing that there's plenty of opportunities now to move people. There's been rumors that Rey Mysterio might move over to SmackDown. There's rumors that Jade Cargill and her group might move over to Raw. So it'll be very interesting this coming week of whether or not we're going to see movement. And again, what I haven't talked about either, what happened on Raw, is we saw CM Punk come in the ring and Cody Rhodes came out, and they almost, without making anything official, they really implied that a championship match between those two could be coming at some point. So if that's the case, does CM Punk go over to SmackDown as well? There is a lot of ongoing things that really need more time to it. So this just shows you that Raw tomorrow really is a must watch if you're liking what you're watching in terms of the storylines. And then as well on SmackDown, because that Fatal Influence Rhea Ripley segment, which by the way, Rhea also had a moment with Charlotte and Alexa. It almost seems like they might have to come together, defend off Fatal Influence. So that women's division on SmackDown's heating up, and that tag division could be really fun to watch. But also the the major wrestling or the major scene in terms of Rhea Ripley and her championship. And we haven't even talked about the fact that Tiffany Stratton defeated Julia to become your new United States Women's Champion, because that happened on SmackDown as well. So in a lot of ways, a lot has happened just past week in WWE, and it's just been absolutely crazy. So where do we go? That remains to be seen. But full transparency, I think it's going to be different. I think it's going to be fun. We still have Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, Blake Monroe to show up. And Bobby, yes, I did mention that a part of the call-ups. And when it comes to Blake Monroe, nothing was solidified that she's SmackDown, but it definitely wagers, will we see that coming soon vignette on Raw or not? If we do, they're going to be teetering which show she's going to be on. But if not, then we know. I think as of tomorrow, by tomorrow, we'll find out for sure if Blake Monroe is SmackDown or not. Just too vague. Right? You got a promo vignette saying Blake Monroe and then saying coming soon. But where? Where is she going to be? That's a big one. And I like it. I don't hate it because with her, she has that movie actress feel. She's more of that star, right? So I get it. It's a good thing. I'm very curious of what she's going to do. I do hope she is on SmackDown because I would love to see her work with Tiffany Stratton. I would love to see her work with Kiana James. I'd love to see her work with Chelsea Green. Those would be very fun to watch. But given how much she upped her aggressiveness in the matches with Tatum Paxley, I'm very curious what she would do up against a Rhea Ripley, up against a Julia, up against a Jordan Grace, which we did see in NXT. But it'll just be very interesting to watch. We also have a lot to watch because 7 days, every day we have content here at Turnbuckle Studios. So let's check out all of that, and then we'll come back to me trying to predict who becomes the champion after every current title holder on Raw and SmackDown. So go check this out and let me know. If you go to our shop, what show are you going to buy from? Yeah, let me know.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday night, we are on call as the Raw Patrol is on duty at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday, we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursdays, we roam the jungle with the Boar's Nest at 9 p.m. Friday, we invite you to come for a ride with the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday, be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later in the day, the Locker Room presents Wrestling Recap delivers at 7 p.m. Always be aware that weekend shows can vary in times, as the PLE Patrol and other watch party streams are always a must-see. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day and watch all of the latest episodes on turnbucklestudios.org/shows. And please do not forget to drop a like, follow, and to subscribe to all of our channels, and when the time is right, all you have to do is tap in.
That's right. And the one thing I do want to let everybody know that if by chance you do go to our shop and you do purchase anything from the Chris Parrish podcast section, if you send me a photo or post anything saying that you did, let me know, tag me, and I'll make sure I give you a public thank you and shout out on a live episode. So yeah, that's something that you have my guarantee with. You support me, I will support you. That is how it works. So there we go. Yeah, we have some new champions, whether it's WrestleMania or even SmackDown. We saw a lot of new champions crowned. In fact, We saw Roman Reigns. We saw Becky Lynch. We saw Liv Morgan, Brie Bella, and Paige, Tiffany Stratton, and Trick Williams all become new champions this past, just within the last 8 days. So here's the fun thing. Who is going to win the titles after these current superstars? Let me know who you have as the next champions. I'm going to start out on the SmackDown side. And with Damian Priest and R-Truth, I'm looking at the MFTs. That's right. I do think they're going to go to a heel team next. And right now, it seems very thin on your tag team front. I don't think we're going to see new tag team champions anytime soon. I do think Damian Priest and R-Truth most likely hold these titles for at least another 2 to 3 months. But what I do think we're going to see are the MFTs become those new champions. And I think after we find out kind of what's going on within the group, we're going to get a little bit more united we stand mentality from the MFTs, and them becoming new champions is what I'm predicting. We saw Tiffany Stratton become your new Women's United States champion, but the big question is, who will defeat her and become the next champion? And I have Kiana James as that. I do think we're going to get a rematch with her and Julia, and that's going to solidify Julia's exit from the United States Championship. I do think we could see Julia go up and face off against Rhea Ripley in some way, shape, or form, but that leaves a hole. And because of that, Kiana James, I think, is that person that could take the championship off. Now, would I want to see other people like a JCJ or even a Jordan Grace or even a Chelsea Green? Absolutely. But I do think over time we're going to see Tiffany Stratton become that champion that really holds the title for a bit. So I'm going to say by the time SummerSlam comes around, that's where we might see in that time frame a new champion. And I'm going to go with Kiana James. Moving over to the men's side, and that is the Men's United States Championship, and we have Trick Williams. Now, I don't think we're going to see Sami Zayn get the title back. I do think we're going to get a rematch of Sami Zayn with Trick Williams, but I do think Sami Zayn's going to fall short. And because of that, we're going to have Trick Williams go on to something else. I do think we could see a Carmelo Hayes feud with Trick Williams over that United States Championship. But I think ultimately we're going to go with somebody that has not held the United States Championship for quite a long time. In fact, this version of this person has never held a championship in WWE. I'm going to go with Matt Cardona as your next United States champion. When it comes to the women's tag team champions, Brie and Paige, I think it's very clear right now that the more tag teams for the women's side are located on SmackDown. So because of that, I'm staying on SmackDown because it just makes sense that those champions have the ability to go to Raw. It just makes more sense to have that than the other way around. So I'm going to go with Lacey Reed and Fallon Henley from Fatal Influence as your next tag team champions. Because if by chance Fatal Influence do not consistently get the reaction that they did on Friday, but still get pretty good ones, I see the test run being tag team championships first, and then something with JC Jane later. With the women's world, with the women's championship, Rhea Ripley, I'm gonna stay in the ballpark of Fatal Influence, because from what I've seen with JC Jane, since she became women's champion in NXT, became the first women to hold both NXT and TNA Knockouts championship, I really liked the confidence and everything of the presentation of JC Jane. I do think this is a performer that can do a lot of good work. And I think this is a great time to strike when the iron is hot. I don't think, now that Rhea Ripley is on SmackDown, I don't think that if she lost this title, she goes back to Raw. I think this is a permanent switch. So I don't think you need Rhea Ripley to get a Roman Reigns type title reign here. I think it's very possible that you use Rhea Ripley in a way to help elevate other women on your roster. And I think you can start off by JC Jane. And if JC Jane does keep up this level of heat, I think it's undeniable. And you need to strike when that iron is hot. And I do think JC Jane, even if it's a short run or even a little bit of a run with Rhea Ripley chasing her, I think that really makes and adds to the star power of JC Jane. So that is what I'm doing, because if JC Jane is a former champion on SmackDown, that already makes her a bigger commodity moving forward than somebody who's chasing a title but can't win. So I'm going to go with JC Jane. And then for Cody Rhodes and his championship, I fully expected Randy Orton to win the title at WrestleMania. So I'm fully expecting Randy Orton to take that championship at Backlash. And I do think this is going to just absolutely take Cody Rhodes to that breaking point. And I think that is a good thing. And I'm very now intrigued with what we get between Cody Rhodes and Ricky Saints on SmackDown. I think that is something to really be noteworthy on. So those are my picks for all the SmackDown titles, including the women's tag team titles. Now for Raw, I'm going to go with all the ones, but let me know in the comments what you think the next championship will be on SmackDown. Who are going to be the next set of champions in the comments? Please let me know. For the tag team titles, I see the returning Street Profits. That's right. The Street Profits came back on Raw to help out Seth Rollins in his battle against the Vision. And because of that, I think Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford are going to become your new World Tag Team Champions. They're going to beat the Vision. And I actually think it makes a lot of sense to do this either at Backlash or one of your main events or Clash in, I think it's Italy. One of the two, do it. Really gives some emphasis on these tag titles, and I think that's something you need. When it comes to the Intercontinental Championships, we have Penta and Becky Lynch. I think for Becky Lynch, we now have closed the door on AJ Lee. And you can go multiple ways. Do you put Sol Ruca in this position and have her go up against both your champions on her first two nights? I think it's very possible. But I don't think Sol Ruca wins the Intercontinental title from Becky Lynch. I don't think Lyra Valkyria will win the title from Becky Lynch. So the big question is, does somebody turn? Does somebody flip from being a heel to a babyface like a Roxanne Perez or Raquel Rodriguez? No. Who I do have, though, is the one person who briefly started a little program with Becky Lynch. They never finished it. It's also the person who has storied history with Becky Lynch. She did steal her WrestleMania 41 moment away from her. This is now a little personal. I see Becky Lynch losing the title to Bayley, and I do think that's going to happen probably within the next 3 to 4 months. So I have Bayley as your next women's Intercontinental champion. And then Bobby, you're going to love hearing this. With Penta, I think you need someone who's a little more stunning, a little bit more cutting, a little bit more intelligent to beat Penta. Penta is an absolute stud inside the ring. He's on a tear, so you have to outsmart Penta to win. And with the addition of Ethan Page now on Raw, I love that as a way for him to steal that Intercontinental Championship off Penta. So I have Ethan Page as your next Intercontinental Champion. And that leaves me with both championships, and that is Liv Morgan, Roman Reigns. And I'm going to go with Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vacquier will continue their rivalry. And I actually do think Stephanie Vacquier will eventually get back that championship, because I do think, even though she had that 7-month reign, I do think now we're starting to finally get a little bit of support for Stephanie Vacquier in this feud. I do think it was fairly obvious Liv Morgan was always going to win the title, but now that we see Stephanie Vacquier being that person that doesn't say quit, always fights back, will never leave Liv Morgan alone, I do think we're going to see a side of Stephanie Vacquier now that we haven't seen before, and because of that, I do think that's going to bring her back into that title picture and become a 2-time women's world champion. As for Roman Reigns, I do think we're going to wait on Obafemi. I do think we're going to wait on whether it's CM Punk, Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins. I think all of those men are going to be accounted for. I do think what makes a lot of sense right now is strike when the iron's hot, and we don't know what his next move is. He did say he wants to go back for the title. I'm going to put the Ring General, Gunther, right back in that position. Give me a Gunther Roman Reigns feud that lasts over the springtime heading into the summer. I want to see Gunther and Roman Reigns, and I have Gunther becoming your next World Heavyweight Champion. And that takes me to the end of this show. We didn't get to talk about what's next for NXT, so you know what? That is just going to have to wait for next week. We're going to see a little bit on that on Tuesday, so just maybe we'll get a little bit of a preview on what that is going to look like. We do know that this has been Full Transparency, episode 125 of the Chris Parrish podcast, but next week we hit it up with episode 126. What's next for WWE? So how appropriate that we just didn't have time to talk about what's next for NXT. So that's going to be for next week. This has been episode 125 of the Chris Parrish podcast, but let's have some fun, right? We are live on 2 different Twitch channels, so you let me know in the comments if there's anybody on Twitch that you would like for us to raid to. Let me know, because I am going to raid out to both of their channels, and we are going to do that right now. So let me know who you have, if there's somebody that you want us to go to, and I'll do that right away. If not, we are going to raid out to somebody. You know what? I'm gonna, on the Chris Parrish channel, I'm gonna raid out to JPJ Loves Wrestling, and you know what? I'm just gonna send him everyone. So if you're on the Twitch channels and you still want to continue watching some good content, go to a good friend of mine, JPJ, as he is chatting up right now. So I believe that is all good. So everyone, enjoy your night, and it'll be a great day. This has been episode 125 of the Chris Parrish podcast, Full Transparency. So at the end of the day, be happy, be healthy, and at the end of the day, you matter. See you next week, everyone.
Rip through the clouds.